So previously we've learned how to factor a trinomial when b and c were both positive. Let's talk about what to do when b is negative and c is positive. So in this problem, b is a negative 12 and c is a positive 27. We still start off by looking for a greatest common factor, which we don't have in this problem. X squared, negative 12x, and 27 don't have a greatest common factor. So we can go straight to our two parentheses, and our parentheses both have to start with x because the polynomial, begins with x squared. So what we're looking for is two numbers that have a product of 27 and a sum of negative 12. And it turns out there's only one way to get a product that is positive and a sum that is negative, and that's to have two negative numbers. A negative times a negative is a positive, and a negative plus a negative is a negative. So when we're looking for our product of 27, it's going to be two negative numbers. So when I start listing out my products, I'm going to list them in as two negatives, and I'm going to go ahead and do the sum while I am writing out the products, just so that whenever I find the combination that equals negative 12, I can stop. So for example, negative 1 times negative 27 is positive 27. Negative 1 plus negative 27 is negative 28. So that doesn't work. It has the correct product, of course, but it doesn't have the correct sum. Okay, the next one I can think of is 3 and 9. So negative 3 times negative 9 is positive 27. And negative 3 plus negative 9 is negative 12. Well, there we go. Negative 3 and negative 9 have a product of 27 and a sum of negative 12. So our answer is x minus 3 and x minus 9. There we go. Okay, let's do another one. X squared minus 10x plus 16. So the b is negative 10 and the c is positive 16. We look for a greatest common factor like usual. There's not one, so we go straight to our two parentheses. And our parentheses have to both start with x because this problem begins with x squared. B is negative 10, C is negative 16, so we want a product, sorry, C is positive 16, so we want a product of 16 and a sum of negative 10. And so let's see, we could do negative 1 times negative 16, that's a positive 16. Negative 1 plus negative 16 is negative 17. I know some of you are screaming at your computer screens like, these are the two numbers, just do it. Let's see, 16 could be 2 and 8. Negative 2 times negative 8 is positive 16. And negative 2 plus negative 8 is negative 10. Oh, well, there we go. There they are. Negative 2 and negative 8 have a product of positive 16 and a sum of negative 10. So our two numbers are negative 2, negative 8, and there's our answer. And if you can go straight to those two numbers, like in your head, you know from the beginning, oh, it's negative 2, negative 8, you don't need to make the table. The table's just a way to figure it out if you can't immediately figure out what those two numbers are, because sometimes it's difficult to figure out what the two numbers are. For example, if I had ended this with plus 96, for example, instead of plus 16, 96 has a lot of factors that could go into that product column, and maybe it's not as easy to figure out what all the factors of 96 are. So if you get something weird on the end, maybe you want to make the table. But a lot of times, like these two problems, there's not a lot of factors for C. You might just be able to go straight to the answer. And that always feels good whenever you look at it and you're like, I know my multiplication table so well, I can go straight to the answer.